can just mark it?
Yes.
All right, thanks. Okay, so this is the Land Use Landmarks Committee meeting on April 3rd, 2023, and I'm Del Teague, chairperson, and let's start with the roll call. Teague here, Vieira, McKeeva.
Here.
Tesla,
Yep.
Drinkwater,
Here.
Indig, Kaminsky,
Here.
Canton,
Here.
Pelterborn, Myers, Michelli, Rabbi Niederman,
Here.
Nieves, Sofer, Vega,
Here.
Weiser,
Here.
Andrews, Berger,
Here.
Kowachka, Naplatarski, Stone.
Ten members.
It's 10 or 11?
You have 10.
Okay. So why don't we get started? Kate Naplatarski will be here any minute. So as I said earlier, the first scheduled presentation from the from the Borough President's office has been. Someone is coming through, so please mute yourself. Has been delayed to May 1st. So we will move to item 2, 340 Bushwick Avenue, the New York City Department of Design and Construction renovation and replacement of the heating and cooling system for the Bushwick Branch Library. So who's presenting?
Hi, I'm Michelle Bonin, and I believe I'm starting off just for a minute or two, and then we'll turn it over to our DDC and CISCA counterparts. I'm not sure if they're all here yet, though. I see Anna and Madison. But,
John McClick from Cisco here.
oh,
Yes.
great. Perfect. Okay. So if it's all right, I'll start. And Chair, should I be sharing my screen? Or do you have
Joanna, how will she do that? How will she share?
It's a meeting, so she's able to share. You're able to share the screen just by pressing the share button at the bottom.
Okay, here we go. So everyone, I'm assuming, can see my screen right now.
I use the harness.
Yes, can everyone see?
Yes?
Great. Okay, so thanks again. Thanks so much for having us to your land use committee to present. I just wanted to share that there was a little bit of confusion last month. We had a DDC CISCA presentation on Bushwick Library's HVAC project mistakenly scheduled for the general meeting instead of coming here first. So our sincere apologies for that. We know the importance of coming to talk to you in committee and appreciate being able to do that with you all. And there were also some questions that came up about our branches being 2 branches in the district being closed at the same time. So before I turn this over, I wanted to introduce myself and some folks from the BPL team and address that concern. So my name is Michelle Bonin. I'm Vice President for Government and Community Relations, and I'm joined by branch managers of 2 of the libraries in your community board district today, Lauren Comito of Leonard Library, and Mark Waldron of Bushwick Library, who will speak in a bit, and also our project manager for the project at Brooklyn Public Library in the Capital Planning Department, Jackie Abel. So there are 4 branches directly in the lines of CB1. I'm sure you all know this, but I'll just quickly go over. We have the brand new Greenpoint Library and Environmental Action Center, Leonard Library, Williamsburg Library, and Bushwick Library. Leonard, Williamsburg, and Bushwick are all Carnegie branches, so built over 100 years ago with aging infrastructure, And BPL works with you all and the city and our excellent elected representatives to raise the funds to renovate these branches. Also not on this map is DeKalb Library, which is only a 15-minute walk from Bushwick. Though it's not in CB1, it also is a help for patrons who access Bushwick Library. Just get to my next slide. Okay, so as was pointed out at the last meeting, there are two projects that are happening, and a small part of them will overlap. So as you're going to hear in a bit, Bushwick Library has a proposal to have an HVAC replacement. It's estimated to begin in the spring of 2024. And Leonard Library is actually already closed for an HVAC and roof replacement project. So that branch is expected to reopen in the fall of 2024. So the good news is that overlap is only expected to be a few months in the summer of 2024. And we do our best when our branches are closed to set up interim programming in the community when branches have to close long term. This is a photo of our new bookmobiles. It just shows you a typical outside setup. And the bookmobile is one of the interim service tools that we have to help bridge services to the community. And Mark, the branch manager for Bushwick, who is on and we'll talk in a bit, has a fantastic team and has already done a lot of outreach, even though we don't have a specific closing date yet, and we're you know not there yet. But they're already doing bookmobile service once a month outside. They're working with senior centers and schools in the neighborhood. So while it's too early for him and the branch to have a specific schedule set up for when the branch closes, he and his team are being very proactive and beginning to have these conversations already. So I would like to introduce Lauren Camito, who's the branch manager for Leonard Library, to share a little bit about her interim programming while Leonard is closed. And then she could turn it to Mark to say a few words and say hello. And then we'll have DDC do the presentation. So thanks for giving us this time. Lauren?
Hi. Yep, so I'm Lauren. We have been slowly ramping up our sort of pop-up services since we closed in January. And right now what we've got going on is we've got the libraries on tap on Tuesdays. So every Tuesday at Talia Williamsburg on Richardson and Leonard, right down the street from the library, we hang out in the brewery all day and drink coffee and check out books, make library cards. A lot of people use the space to do like work from home and give out grab and go craft kits. And then every other week we have bookmobile service outside of the Leonard Library so that we can be also on that side of our service area. And every other Thursday, alternating with that bookmobile service, we have another pop-up library similar to what we do at Talia at a coffee shop called Here BK. So if you ask where we are, we'll say we're here. Their Wi-Fi network is named Guess. So if you ask them what their Wi-Fi is, they'll tell you Guess, and it's a whole thing. It's fun. It's a whole thing. And so we take our little book wagon that you can see here in the picture all over the place. We'll probably be annoyingly everywhere this summer as soon as it's nice enough to be outside. And then we bring other, we have virtual services, and we are working with other departments in the library to bring things like resume coaching in so they'll be with us at Talia. And as soon as the, community fairs start popping up, we'll probably show up as many of those as possible. We plan to try to pop up at like subway stations, school drop pickup, outside food pantries where people are waiting in line as the weather gets warmer. But because it's been so cold, we've been limited to indoor locations so far.
Thanks, Lauren. And I guess I just, Mark, if you wanted to say hello and then we'll turn it over to DDC, feel free to unmute. Oh, Mark, you're on mute. I'm sorry. Yep, there you go.
Hi, sorry. I know the overlap may not be ideal for both branches to close at the same time, but we are already prepared though to provide services to the community while we were closed. We have a lot of community contacts with Amont, it's the art studio, and also in the Bushwick Community Center. They have offered us space to use in the interim. So we kind of preparing ourselves for when this happens.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to the meat of this presentation for Land Use Committee and stop sharing my screen. And
Thank you, Michelle. We appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Killian. I work for New York City Department of Design and Construction, Office of Communication, Outreach, and Notification. My colleagues on the call is DDC Project Manager Maddie Clyde. Also on the meeting is John Michalik from Siska Hennessy Group, who will talk through the presentation for the Bushwick Branch Library HVAC renovations. John, would you please share your screen and start the presentation? Thank you.
Sure. All right, is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So as we mentioned before, the Bushwick Library is a Carnegie branch, and it goes back to about 1903. The scope of work for this project is both a HVAC upgrade and roofing replacement. So the first part of this is that we'll be providing a new fluid applied roofing system and insulating it to the latest energy codes. We'll be providing new drainage to prevent the clogging of the drains that are currently causing some water infiltration into the library below, and a access hatch so that the roof can be properly maintained, as there's no easy access right now without a ladder. At the exterior down on the ground level, we're going to be providing a new mechanical bulkhead, which will help us bring in outside air, and mechanical ventilation will be aided when the outside air conditions are appropriate, so that we're not using excess energy to maintain the interior spaces. Part of this will require new mechanical bulkheads at the front and side of the building to allow for the proper amount of outside air to be brought into the building. To help mitigate the look and feel of those bulkheads, we're going to provide new landscaping to the space to the outside at the Bushwick Avenue side of the building. Within the space, we're going to be replacing the existing mechanical units that are in the cellar level with new units, ductwork, registers, exhaust fans. Some of this will include replacement or rerouting of existing electrical conduits in the space, some patchwork to areas where we need to access the ceiling, and any replacement of ceilings that need to be done in coordination with the HVAC work that is done here. So we expect to finish the design for this project in the summer of this year, 2023, with an anticipated construction start in spring of 2024. And the construction should finish about 1.5 years later in the fall of 2025. So this is just to give you an idea of the orientation of where the site is located. And these are the cross streets here on Bushwick Avenue between Moore and Siegel Street. What we're showing here is the proposed location of the mechanical bulkhead for the air intake into the building. Currently lines up with the existing mechanical room in the basement. This is going to be off to the side and out of the view of most of the street there. Here is a shot of the Siegel Street side of the building, where we're going to be redoing some of the point work there to clean up the bricking and all that. And again, a continuation of that onto the rear of the building, back where the parking lot is. This is on the opposite side of the building, closer to the Moore Street side, where the existing porch that houses the air-cooled condensers for the split systems is held. We're going to be upgrading the structural to replace any corroded areas there and installing new HVAC units into that porch. And look a little bit further on the side of Moore Street there. This is where the exhaust air will be, mechanical bulkhead will be installed. So whatever air we bring into the building, we're going to be removing that air from the building to maintain the proper pressurization for the building. Here's another view of that area that we're looking at again for the proposed intake mechanical bulkhead at the front of the building. These are the renderings of what we're planning to do with the roof. The existing roof will be removed. The terracotta on the coping there will be replaced, and existing brickwork will be repointed and repaired as required. After the roof is replaced, we'll be providing a new roof hatch with a guardrail to give you access to the roof for cleaning and maintenance, with the new roof replacement and new terracotta coping segments. This rendering here shows where the front mechanical bulkhead will be installed and the greenery, the landscaping that we plan to install with it. These are going to be new shrubbery, skip laurel, and abravita. So these are the key design features. A lot of what we're doing here is to improve the overall comfort of within the library and also improve the energy efficiency of the operation of the library. And that is the end of this presentation that I have here right now.
Thank you, John. Any questions from the board?
Yes, I have a question. Sante Micheli here.
Yes, Dante?
Yeah, I don't know. If somebody has something to say. Can I?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, just what's the depth of this bulkhead that you are showing at the front facade?
They're about 3 feet.
Oh, 3 feet. And what's the height?
These are about 4 feet high.
Oh, 4 feet high. No, I mean, I was wondering, did you explore the possibility of removing this from the front facade? Which I know you're going to put some vegetation there in an attempt trying to cover. But seeing that this is an historic building, is this a landmark building or?
I know that the Carnegie Library in Williamsburg is landmark. I'm not sure about this one.
Yeah, it was a question. Is this I didn't have the time to. No, it's not a landmark. But beyond that, I was just a question. I was wondering if there was possibility of not placing this in the front facade. There is the rear facade, which has already a structure, bulkhead. What is the reason? Is this going to awesome split system? What kind of mechanical is going to be there?
So we're going to have air handlers in the cellar there. They're going to replace the existing air handlers, which are in the front corner of the building at this location. In order to move those mechanical bulkheads to another location, we would actually have to take away some of the occupied space that we use for some of the library programs. And that's something that we decided was not going to be appropriate for this library.
No, and also there is this, open space at the front, and I don't know, this may not be the scope of the work, but would have been great if probably relocating whatever was at the back and relocating that one at the front, and also the potential of using the open space. No, it's outside probably of the scope of your presentation, but very valuable outdoor space. Could have a table, and kids and family could have used that as part of the library, so it would have been, so having that there will a little bit will jeopardize not only the front facade, but definitely the potential use of that front space. But
Well, there currently is just a walkway over there right now. And that walkway is going to be replaced. It's going to be shifted further out from the facade of the building so that it doesn't impact these louvers. So that walkway space will be maintained.
sure, but that's all. My comment is I wish this mechanic would have been located not on a front facade. That's all. Thank you.
No other questions? Does anyone want to make a motion?
I have one question. It's Trina. With the Leonard Library, was that a year and a half as well? And are they on schedule? Did the work happen the way it was projected to happen? Or is it the ongoing work?
So it's a 2-year project but it seems like it sounds like it is on schedule so far if we're projecting fall 2024.
And you guys have a garden. You make use of your open space.
We do. Yeah, and the space that we're discussing at Bushwick isn't necessarily usable. I've walked around in there. They do make use of the space all the way in the sidewalk area by the book drop and put furniture out during the summer. But that space is all behind fencing.
Thank you.
Also, if I can, to add more on the same topic of Trina, and probably this was one of the major question at our general meeting last month. Yeah, I know you're going to put some pop-up, and that's would allow to rent and take books, but definitely if two libraries are closed simultaneously, the community is losing the use of the facility, which is not the same. I mean, family, kids can use it, can sit there, can read there, and can do research there. Yes, you're going to be able to rent book through the pop-up system, but still the community is going to be impacted on not having two facility operating. So did you consider that?
Yeah, hi. Yes, I mean, I think the the unfortunate thing is, in order for us to fix up our branches, we have to close them to do the work. So it's always a double-edged sword. But I mean, I think, as I stated earlier, the good news is that this is a smaller overlap than it could have been. So, it takes us years to procure the amount of funding needed to be able to do these sort of large infrastructure projects. They're particularly costly and difficult in these Carnegie branches. And so, we do what we can with the scheduling, but with 62 locations around the system, we try to manage the best that we can to limit service disruptions for the public and do the best we can. So I know it's unfortunate, and it is really hard to lose a beloved space for a period of time. But it's unfortunate that we often don't have a choice about that, and we just try to make the best we can of our great partnerships in the community, like Lauren has talked about and like Mark is working towards. So hopefully that it won't be too much of a disruption for you in the summer next year. And you'll be able to use a cooled summer location following this project. I mean, the issue
Yeah.
here is that we don't have infrastructure that's, that's working properly. So every summer we are trying to be cooling centers for the city, and in the winter we want to be warm. And if that's not happening, putting it off is not necessarily the answer.
Yeah, I mean, as a staff member who was working on site at Leonard through the last several summers, calling it an HVAC replacement, I feel, is optimistic. It's more like an installation. We were running at about 80 degrees on a regular basis, popped up to 82 every time it went over 95 and had to close for safety. So, we have to close for a few years to fix this, but when we get back open, we'll stay open, which is more reliable for the community to actually know that we'll be open instead of showing up at a closed library because it hit a heat level that we couldn't safely work in anymore, which is also not safe for children and families.
Yeah. We also have like a lot of leaking problems. When it rains, it leaks all over the building on the side. It leaks in the leaks in the books. It's really been ongoing for the last few years. It's getting worse.
All right, this is Dale Teague. I'm gonna cut this off right here, because it sounds to me like these two libraries are desperately in need of being fixed, and they finally got the funds. And I think that, this will be a wonderful addition to the community. We are talking about a couple of months of overlap, which is unfortunate, but I would recommend that we have a motion to approve the application.
I, William Vega, second.
Okay, roll call. Let me just motion to approve. Joanna, can you keep the tally while I make the roll call?
Yes.
Thank you. Teague, yes. Viera, McKeever,
Yes.
Scheffler,
Yes.
Drinkwater,
Yes.
Indig, Kaminsky,
Yes.
Canton,
Yes.
Kelterborn,
Yes.
Myers, Michelli,
Yes.
Rabbi Niederman,
Yes.
Nieves, Stouffer, Vega,
Yes.
Weiser, Andrews, Berger,
Yes.
Kowachka, Naplatarski, Stone. Katie, I could barely hear you. I don't know if you can make yourself louder.
Yes.
I heard the yes, but just to let you know.
12 yes. 0 no's.
Thank you. All right. Moving on. So item number
Number 4.
3, and that will be our landmarks application.
Yes, Trina, maybe I will do it, and if I need help, can you step in?
Sure, and I'll take notes for you, Rosina.
Okay, great.
That's great.
Okay. The application for 118 North 11th Street, the proposed work is for recreation of missing windows and the installation of new infilling and signage at the ground floor of the Hecla Iron Works building. This is, as we know, individual landmark properties. So do we have a person that's going to be presented?
Yeah, hi, this is Ward Dennis, and I'm here with Sarah Scher from my office. I think I will share screen and introduce, and then Sarah will walk you through the presentation.
Okay.
So let me just get that up. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, I think everybody can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, so hello everybody again. Good to see everybody. Good to be back at this committee. My name is Ward Dennis. I'm with Higgins Quaysbarth and Partners, along with my partner Sarah Scher. We are preservation consultants for the owner of this building, which is 118 North 11th Street. It's the Hecla Iron Works building. It is an individual landmark constructed of cast iron and constructed in the late 1890s. We've been working with the owners on a facade restoration over the past couple years. So this photo here, all of the windows on the upper floors were repaired and reglazed and made operable again. So these are all the original windows with now fully operable sash. You can see it has a sort of unique upper center pivot window and then a lower vertical center pivot window. The application that we're here for today is at the base of the building, which you can see in its existing condition. The owner has a new tenant, which is a group called Swingers, which is a interior miniature golf facility. As part of that, we are proposing to restore much of the base of the building and install new entries at both the east end, which is at the left side, and the west end, which is at the right side. So Sarah, I will let you take over, and I will click forward when you tell me.
Okay, thanks, Ward. Sarah Scher, Higgins Quaysbarth and Partners. As Ward mentioned, this is the Hecla Ironworks building, which was designed and constructed by Hecla, which was one of the more important manufacturers of architectural ironwork in the United States in the mid-19th century and the early 20th century. And this building was designed as their headquarters between 1896 and 1897. And it was designated as a landmark in 2004. So I'm going to go through some historic documentation and existing conditions so that you can get a sense of the changes that have been done at the building. And then we'll go through the drawings to describe the proposed scope of work. So next.
Yep. And sorry, I forgot to mention that this presentation has been updated slightly at the request of landmark staff. So it has a couple small changes from what was sent to you earlier.
Yes. So this is our earliest documentation of what the building might have looked like. This is from 1909 and is a postcard showing the Hecla campus. The landmark building is in the right side of the photo. In the upper right side, we have a zoomed in image of the ground floor of the building, which just shows us that there was a stable door entrance. We can see a horse coming out of the building. And then the rest of the ground floor is showing windows, sort of that tripartite configuration that exists at the upper floors. Next. And then in terms of historic photos that show the base more clearly, we really just have the circa 1940 tax photo from the municipal archives. And this is very good at showing us what the base of the building looked like. On the west side, or the bottom right photo, we can see that stable entrance is showing it on the opposite side of the building that the postcard did. But we've got a traditional stable doors that were likely wood with these large multi-light window openings. And then flanking the stable door, we can see in this photo some side lights that are multi-light that are now missing, that will be recreated as part of the project. At the east side of the building, which is a zoom in on the top right corner, there's this tripartite division with two entrance doors flanking a middle bay that has some kind of infill in it with a cast iron bulkhead below. You can also see in this photo signage that are above those three bays that still exist, and then signage along the spandrels across the base of the building. We also see in this photo the center three bays have that multi-light window configuration that exists at the upper floors. None of the windows in this photo are being operated, but we presume that they were also operable like the upper floor sash. Next photo. So as I mentioned, the building was designated an individual landmark in 2004, and this is the photo that was taken at the time of designation. So you can see the ground floor at that time had already been modified significantly. All of the windows had been removed, the stable doors removed, and the door configurations changed around. We have photos going back to the 80s that also show this, so this happened sometime before 1985. Next photo. And then the existing condition is very similar to what it was like at designation, the main difference being that the base has been heavily graffitied. Part of the scope of this project will be to remove the paint and the graffiti from the ground floor to clean up the base so that the cast iron finish can read through again. And then the next series of photos will go bay by bay from left to right, just so you can see the existing conditions a little more clearly through the paint and graffiti. So this is our eastern bay with the entrances. On the left side is the existing entrance to the door. The middle is brick infill with a signboard in front of it that exists. And then the right is stucco infill with a cast iron saddle at the base. So what we'll be doing in this bay is creating an opening for swingers in the right-hand bay that matches that of the entrance, the existing entrance. So a recessed door with brick infill around it. And then the signboard will be reused for some signage. And the 118 that you see on top of the right-hand bay will be repainted with tenant signage that will match the font of the office signage that we see on the left side. Next. This bay just to the right of the entrance has been the most modified. We've lost the cast iron bulkhead that stretched across the base. It's all been infilled with CMU, and also the base below the cast iron pilaster has been removed, but will be recreated as part of this project just to bring back some grounding for that cast iron in this bay. The staircase for the building is behind this part of the facade. So as part of adaptively reusing the building, there needs to be some egress from that stair. So we're proposing to do a punched opening in the CMU to allow egress through this bay of the building. Next. These two bays historically had the multi-light windows that we see on the upper floors, and those have all been removed, and this is stucco with steel bracing in front of it. As part of this application, all of this will come out and new steel windows to match those above, but with fixed operability will be installed in their place. Next. And then the westernmost bay that used to have a stable door now has a roll-down garage with housing. What we're not seeing in this photo is behind the garage door, there are additional cast iron pilasters that would have framed those side lights that were on the end of this bay. So by removing the garage door, we'll see those cast iron pilasters again. We'll be recreating the missing glazed windows as side lights, and then there'll be new infill here that allow for the second means of egress, but also reference a stable door design while meeting code requirements in this bay. Next. So here's an overall plan of the tenant space. Ward, if you could just, yes, so that's the landmark building, is just the bottom right corner of this sheet. So it's just a piece of the overall footprint of what the space will be. So the entrance will be there, and then they'll be part of the area here. We can go to the next slide though. Overall elevations, existing elevation at the top, proposed at the bottom. The top 3 floors aren't part of this proposal, but we wanted to show you what the context of the application looks like with the whole building. So you can see the restoration work and those center bays and the recreation of the side lights and the stable door entrance. And then we have basically 3 new door openings for code requirements and access requirements. On the left-hand side, a new door to get into the tenant space, and then 2 egress doors, one in the existing CMU, and then one all the way on the right that's integrated into this infill that's referencing the stable door design. And next we can zoom in a little bit more. So here's a proposed elevation and a partial plan below, just to show how the inside is interacting with the outside. So in the easternmost bay, we have the new entrance that's leading to an entrance vestibule for the tenant space. There'll be signage at the existing sign panel to the left, and then signage above in the area where there's already painted lettering. To the right of that, we have the new egress door that connects to the stairs, and we'll be recreating that base beneath the cast iron pilaster as well, so it's more grounded on the facade. The 6 windows will be installed to match historic new steel windows that will be fixed. As you can see in the plan, there's a partition that will be behind one of the window bays to protect the windows from back of house operations in that location. In order to block visibility of the partition, we're proposing some opaque vinyl decals that are the colors of the tenant that we'll look at later on in the presentation. The decals are reversible, so whenever the wall goes away, they can just be removed, and then you just have a window as well. But as part of the proposal is the decals. And the bay just to the east of that will also have decals, but they'll be transparent, but the same coloration, just so there's consistency at the ground floor, sort of window storefront configuration. And then all the way on the right, we see that tripartite stable door recreation with an egress option there, which we'll see in more detail. Okay, next. And then we have existing and proposed bay by bay, just so you can see the details. The window above the main door is going to be infilled with brick, as it's not historic condition. The sign panel will be replaced with a new tenant sign, and then we have the new door to match the existing door on the right with brick infill around it, and then recessed at the same plane as the existing door. Next. And here we're seeing the CMU existing condition. A new egress door will be added to that existing condition, and then the pilaster will receive a new base, just so it's not floating, a new cast iron base. Next. And here's a detail of the windows going from stucco and steel bracing to beautiful steel windows that are fixed. The next page, we can see the details. As Ward mentioned, because of all the restoration work on the upper floors, we've already have these great drawings of the existing conditions of the steel windows. And so we'll be able to duplicate these details with fixed operability for the new ones. And you'll see on the next sheet that the details are the same between historic and proposed. Next. And then a detail of the stable door bay. So on the left is showing how the roll down garage door blocks the inner cast iron pilasters. Currently, all of that will be, all of the garage, non-historic garage infill will be removed. The housing will be removed. The cast iron restored with the new side lights to recreate the historic will be flanking that bay. And then in the middle, you know, we looked at lots of different designs. I think you saw one when we sent the previous version of the presentation, the challenge of creating something that references the stable door infill while also providing egress and meeting code. And so we sort of played on the idea of a stable door design and that tripartite system that we're seeing throughout the building to create this metal infill that allows for a door, but also something to occupy the space that currently doesn't have anything in it. I think the next sheet is just, yes, interior elevations of that, exterior elevations and sections. If you want to look at anything more closely, just let me know. And then the next sheet, this is the colors of the vinyl decals, the 4 ones that are highlighted in purple that will be in a mix on the window glazing. And like I said, they're reversible. They're just stickers that can go on and off the windows. And then the bottom is an intercom that's proposed next to the tenant entrance that will be attached to new brick. And with that, I think we could go back to an elevation if anybody has any questions.
I just wanted to add one thing, which is the windows that we're proposing at the base of the building. First off, the details that we saw were used to replicate missing elements above. And secondly, these windows, the reason this is going to public hearing for the windows is because we're making them fixed windows because they're for a storefront. If we were doing them as operable windows, it could be approved at staff level.
I have a question, Simon.
Yes,
Simon?
Simon, yes.
Yeah, I do to know, you mentioned about the graffiti that's was going to be removed. How do you remove that? Does it become you see the original, how it was originally when it was built? Or like how are you able to remove the whole? How's it go?
There's a variety of different chemical cleaners that remove paint from cast iron. I think as part of this, we'll need to test chemical cleaners. There's also the option of like a wet abrasive that can remove paint, but my guess is that a chemical cleaner will be able to remove the paint from the base of the building.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Trina,
other questions?
I have a question. Oh, Rosina, I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
No.
I have a question about the windows on the ground floor and the colors. The colors will get put in the windows just so you can't actually see in them? Is that, will there be multiple colors? Because you showed a palette of different colors.
Right, it's 4 different colors, 1 color per light or glazed unit. And the idea is, if you can see in this plan here, there's a partition in that one bay. So the vinyl decals would be opaque in that one bay so that you're not looking at a partition or sheetrock partition behind it. The decals adjacent will be translucent so that you can see through them. But just to give some consistency to how those windows are treated. They'll both have the colors or proposed.
And the colors will be checkerboarded?
Yes.
That's just a design, a playful design decision?
Yeah, it's the attendance design.
I have a question.
Okay, Del?
One is about these decals. Is that something that we are looking at? Is that something that you need approval for from Landmarks?
Yes. Yes, for an individual landmark. I think there are no rules related to decals on windows at the ground floor. So if you're installing decals that are beyond, a grayscale decal blocking a soffit, then it needs a public hearing approval.
And you're saying these are removable?
Yep. They're literally they're a sticker that gets applied to the inside of the window.
Okay. And I have another question. The brick around the doorways, is there brick on any other part of the building?
Besides the side elevations, no, not on the front is just cast iron, and then the various generations of masonry infill at the base. So
what made you choose brick?
No, this is existing brick at this.
Right.
At this bay, and this is existing CMU at this bay.
Okay.
So we're not removing anything. We're just putting doors within existing masonry.
Okay, because I was wondering why you chose brick, but
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, those are my questions.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, Steve?
Thank you. Thanks a lot for the president. Hey, Ward, good to see you. This is, just a really, really great project. I'm glad that there's, restoration effort going on. So favorite building of mine. Question I had is about the former stable door on, I guess, on the west end. If there was an attempt to, I guess, more closely recreate the stable door, like why just having like a tube panel, large door that opened up, or have that as sort of, I guess, a opening up to reveal, a smaller, I guess, more manageable door.
Yes, we've looked at many different configurations for this door. It's challenging because of it's a proper egress door, so it has to be a door that somebody can push out easily to exit the building. It also has to meet a 2-hour fire rating, so it has to be a metal door. It can't be wood. So we've tried to look at like a door within what is a cricket door configuration, but just nothing was looking quite right. So we did end up going a little bit farther away from a sort of pure restoration approach to something that's more contemporary, but in the spirit of the stable door and also that tripartite divisions that we're seeing across the building. But yes, we looked at many different options here.
Okay.
Do each of the 3 doors open? I don't understand how.
It's just one door.
Just one.
And those are panels next to it.
Oh, okay. So it's just the one.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an illusion of actually having 3 doors together.
I have a question too.
Yes, Santa?
Hi. I thank you guys. Thank you, Ward. Very happy to see that you're gonna maintain and recreate the steel window. And this building always amazed me, but if you know the history of the building, and also this is a very early for the time carton wall system, if we can call it that way. So very thank you so much. And also, I don't know if committee member knows, but this company, I'm a passionate, I had a fabrication business too with my design practice. And it's very interesting. They actually had developed a finish that was in part of the metallurgic process of this window. So they were kind of pioneer at the time. They also they work on the Flatiron building. They work in so many buildings in New York City that they have still at the time. So really thank you for the work. The only question I have, I'm less disturbed by the carriage. I believe it's kind of as a vocabulary which is in tune with existing language of the building. The only things I have a question is in that elevation next to the office where you add the third door, and I believe right now it's kind of paneled. You cannot see those blocks there. But definitely originally they were in the 1940s tax block photos show us the same series of 3 window or steel window. Why are you maintaining the blocks? Why you are actually not trying to introduce the door, maintaining the language of these 3 window? It feels a little bit still an anomaly to have these concrete blocks there. So that's the only things I feel a little bit strange about.
Right. I mean, I think part of it is timing. It's, you know, trying to get the egress requirements in place so that the tenant can open their business. And this is sort of a non-invasive way to provide the egress and then potentially come back for more restorative work in the future. But yeah, in order to restore this, you would need a lot more cast iron. You'd probably want to bring back the machine pilaster and maybe relocate the door, you know, a little this way or that way. I mean, it would be a lot of work because you'd have to remove the CMU, you'd have to infill with windows or some other kind of metal infill scenario. And you're sort of taking advantage of the fact that there's a CMU wall there. It's a reversible and appropriate solution for the timeline that the project is on.
This is also the main egress for all the upper floors of the building, the secondary means of egress for the upper floors of the building. So we need a rated entrance. The CMU provides a rated entrance. We could not restore that to, you know, fully glazed openings that you could actually see through. It would be something with a CMU wall probably behind it to get the required fire rating.
I see.
All right. Okay, any other questions? If anybody wants to make a,
Yeah, I have a question. Can you hear me, Bojana? It's Kate.
yes. Hi, Katie. Go ahead. Katie? Hello? Hello?
Paul also has his hand up.
Okay, Paul, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was curious about the signage board. Did you say that was original to the building, and is that going to be reused by the tenant?
It is existing. We're not sure when it was installed, sometime pre-designation, and it will be reused for the tenant.
The black rectangle that's next to the door, right? On the eastern part? Yeah, okay. Okay, that was it.
Thank you. Katie? I don't see anybody else with the hand.
I raised my hand again, Bizano.
Oh, okay, Steve, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, just what stuck in my mind is the question about the decals. If there's potential alternative to that, I'm just thinking in my mind those will really stand out in contrast to, you know, kind of the monochrome nature of the building. If other types of signage was explored, like a metal sign hanging from, you know, rod in a chain or something like that, as opposed to, you know, colorized decals.
We haven't explored other options. We felt like it was a good way to do something sort of non-invasive that both blocked the visibility of the partition, but sort of enlivened the window storefront experience. Yeah, I mean, we think decal is sort of like a harmless way to add some character to those two bays while providing limited visibility of the partition beyond. I think a partition beyond would be worse, just looking at a wall through a restored window, but I think.
Had you
We also
considered
have a
just
very
one color?
minimal amount of, well, I think that's a tenant branding question.
Yeah.
But it's sort of related to that. I was going to say we have a very minimal amount of signage on this building, considering the tenant is taking most of the ground floor here. There's the repainted historic sign above the entrance, and then the reusing the existing vertical sign. So at these window locations, there isn't really a place to attach a sign because it would mean drilling into the cast iron. So, you know, as Sarah said, the decals are fully reversible. They do create a playful color, but do so in a way that does no harm.
I have a question. It
Okay.
has to do with the decals too, and I don't know if we're just being petty about this, but it just seems to me the building it's so dignified, and then these decals, will they just cheapen the look? Will they actually take away from the dignity of the building? That's one of the reasons I asked if you actually had to get approved, you know, whether this was something that needed approval, because I do understand that they're removable. But I can just see people walking by and saying, why did they do that to that beautiful building? I don't know. I don't know how other people feel. Otherwise, I think it's a great project.
I feel similarly. It's a concern. I wouldn't say it, you know, it's just that it stand out in a potentially obtrusive sort of way.
I think one muted color would look nice rather than the checkerboard, different colors.
Is it, on that note, is it possible to see a rendering of the colored windows?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was hoping you had some kind of a rendering. I don't know if it's even possible to do, but I don't know. I guess I'm sitting here thinking I'm kind of surprised you all are happy with that this is an amazing project that you're doing, and then got these decals, these colored decals, you know, like stick-on things on these amazing windows.
Corey, you wanted to say something?
No, that's okay. That was actually what I just decided to chime in about the colored windows.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I guess my only question really was sort of what other differences, you know, did the group feel that is being presented tonight that we should be considering? Because I think that that's really the main point is the colored windows, and it's hard for us, I think, really to, you know, it could be cool. I don't know. I'd have to see it in order to answer the question if there was anything else we really should be focusing in on.
Also, I mean, we can ask about developing a rendering, and if we do, then we can send it to you. But we didn't prepare a rendering for this application, and actually Landmarks hasn't asked for one yet. And also we can discuss with the tenant Trina's suggestion to, you know, make it more uniform, one or two colors.
I think this is more agreeable.
Also, Dale, something else I will, you know, definitely the decal, you know, I believe it's a less of a concern. Of course, can be intrusive. I didn't focus into that, so I understand where you're coming from. I believe what I tried to point to you before, and I can only imagine that the firm will want to do the best, definitely of the design in terms of conservation and preserving this building and bring it to its original beauty. I also understand now, the clients has different needs, which are commercial, business need. I believe consider that elevation where there are those blocks, where there were this look at the 1940 picture, because I believe the moment we approve, the door wasn't there. I know it's going to serve, and that will require, as Ward was saying, additional studies and additional understanding and the fireproofing. But still, this is an exclusive, historic, unique landmark, and we're gonna approve to alter entirely that facade, even if nothing will exclude it in the future. It could, bring back the three original window. But right now, our approval will say that we are okay. We're not restoring that according to the 1940 tax photo, and there is something that the door, yes, if we look at that first elevation, the 106, there, the door looks the same, but if you look at the 1940 tax block photo, you have like a repetition of those three steel windows. They're not going to be there. And the blocks, of course, he was there behind. But my question is, once we do this type of conservation and we do all this type of work, wouldn't you want to have the building go back, at least in this front facade, to have that three window, or somehow to try to explore and introduce that door with some element that will link more in terms also transparency. So I understood what you were saying, Ward, but I want to make it out for the committee that it's a very critical element, more than the decal, which can always be removed, and of course, but our approval will say we're fine with that. I believe that's the most critical part of this intervention. That's all my comment for the committee.
Just to be clear, though, the application is to install the door. Everything else at that bay is existing.
Anybody else? I don't have a view who has the hand up. Anybody else?
I don't see any hands up.
Okay. But anybody wants to make a motion on this
Simon.
project? Yes, Simon. Yes, Simon.
Like to make a motion to approve the project.
Is any second?
William Vega seconds.
Hey, William. Are we gonna do the roll call? Should I do it as somebody? Oh.
Quick
So-
question, Rosanna, just on this motion, is there any follow-up on the colored windows as part of this?
Well, that's Moisha.
I was just listening to what Sante had said as
Yeah.
his, perspective, and I think that others share it, so I wasn't sure if that was going to be included, or if it could be.
It could be.
Yeah, I think it should be included. It was mentioned by numerous people.
I agree. I mean, I would hate to have us vote this down just because of the decals, but I would, Simon, would you include our concern about the decals and our recommendation that they do something more subtle?
Yeah, if the committee feels so, everybody, if it's not a major concern for the presenter.
I mean, I would love just to actually see it. I don't want to necessarily make it that we have to change something, because maybe maybe it is subtle enough. It's just kind of hard to know at this point.
Lori, I don't know how practical that is. They want a response.
Got it. We need a response tonight.
Yeah.
And
we look at this slide
we
with the
could-
wait
colors.
till the next
Wait,
committee meeting.
You know,
Okay, one at a time, please.
a motion was made and second, so you either have to rescind it or start a new motion. That's what I'm understanding.
No, we can have a discussion on the motion.
Did we see the
Ask for
slide?
we can ask for a friendly addition to the.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Trina. Can we see one more time the slide showing the colors? Sarah?
Word
Okay.
is controlling.
I have control, but
Oh, okay.
there you go.
So Ward or Sarah, can you explain how the windows, we're looking at all these different colors. How would that work? What's the plan for using those colors in the windows?
I do have, I'm just looking through older materials that have been sent to me from the tenant that might be helpful. Let me just try to send it to Ward and maybe he can bring it up.
Okay.
I just chatted you a screenshot, see if that's helpful.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh.
So this is what we were
You see
sent
that?
the tenant to show their concept, sort of this pastel color.
Well, I see it's very light.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely less
I don't see color.
noticeable, but it's still noticeable.
Is there color here? I don't even see color on this.
Yeah, there's pastel colors, very light.
almost like it has a sheen
Yeah.
quality to it.
Very subtle.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
I
like-
see. I see it.
Yeah.
I
Wait,
see.
sorry. I didn't mean to
No,
give
that's
everybody
very
vertigo.
helpful.
Yeah.
I see.
And will that actually make them not translucent?
Yeah.
Yeah, some will be opaque. The three on the right will be opaque, and the three on the left will be translucent.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't mean to take this meeting out of order, but I feel it's really helpful to see this. And personally, it doesn't bother me actually, from looking at this rendering. And I think the rest of the building is a really good design. So,
All right. So can we
So
go?
is this what they are actually gonna look like? This very light pastel color?
That's how it's always been represented to us. We can certainly follow up to make sure that what they've sent us previously is what is going to be installed.
Because I don't think that was clear before, at least not to me anyway. Okay.
It's different than the little paint chips that the colors that you showed.
Yeah,
in
the
presentation.
colors are
those
much
solid
darker.
colors.
Yeah.
Do you actually know? I mean, they have other locations. Is this like a signature thing? Is this something like someone could look on a website and see, or is this specific
Right,
to this location?
It's their signature colors. I don't know if they've used decals before at their other locations.
Oh, okay.
I did look on their website, Keith, and what is on their website is a little bit darker than what you see here, but I also don't want to make a representation and that's, their plan.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the project as presented with understanding that we had a concern about the colors, which was explained to us that it's going to be as shown.
What about the eastern doorways, that panel that Sante referenced.
Yeah, but he didn't make any motion. He just made, I think he just made the statement for the committee to
I didn't
consider.
have a motion about the colors either. We're adding conditions to the motion.
What, Steve, the colors was not a condition, it was just.
No,
it
we
was
just
minor,
wanted to
it was
see.
minor, so I didn't think it made any sense to have to go through a whole thing just for something as minor as a concern or, but what
you
Sante
didn't
is talking
receive-
about is a major, issue.
But you didn't receive my observation, which that's why I thank you, Steve, for reminding that. I stopped there because I want to remind you that yes, that portion there, the block are existing, but the door, it's something, the moment we approve it, we're gonna jeopardize the future of having, hypothetically, that 3 glass window there that they are reported there. If this is such a model, that we should apply, I don't know. I have question about that. At least to invite, definitely to explore that and to bring also, I'm sure LPC will look at that because it's very visible and the commission may be okay with that. But if we want to be objective, all the focus on the decal, which I can consider valuable, but as I said, less concerning, they are removable. Our granting approval to that door, even if the block are existing and later on, the door is going to be part of that approval, and everything will have to work around the door. Is not may not be supposed to be that way. I'm not saying
We're letting the stable door go.
Yeah, but you see, there was some work, I believe, that was done there, and that somehow, and who knows, was the stable door added in 1940? Probably. Did they have a different door? We don't know that. Did they enlarge that? But for sure, those windows, they are probably some of the most valuable element of that original design. This carton wall system was probably the most important element of the building, was done by these windows. But
you're talking about the stable door, the one
no.
at the end.
No, I'm talking about the elevation. I believe I don't know what is 107.
118. I think.
Next to the where there is the office, there is the riding with the original office entrance. If you look at the 19, it's important to make this comparison. Then if we say that you are okay with that, but I had to bring it to your attention that we are proving a new element is the door. The door will change definitely the configuration of that portion of the building. So anything they want to do in the future is going to work around the door, or they're going to demolish the door entirely. But we are proving a new element, which is the door. That substitute, hypothetically, the moment you go and intervene, you remove a portion of that, you should bring to that original fabric that was there. And I believe it's only dictated by the need of the owner, the tenant. I can't imagine that from a design perspective, that's what you want.
I think Santa, from the old pictures, as I remember, there was no small doors. There were also horses going into the building in that location.
You are misunderstanding, Bosina. I'm talking about from the left next to the office.
Yes, I know. But from the other pictures, old pictures, we had also horses going, the carriages going.
On the first, where the offices were.
Yes.
Not where the 3 windows were.
But on the first one too, I believe. I saw one photograph, old photograph that had.
Look, we have the presentation. I have the PDF, exactly the one that they presented. The first portion where there is the sign that says
I understand. Yes, I'm looking at it.
Next,
Yeah.
there are no carriage. Next are 3 windows, and you can see that. And where the carriage door that you saw is a carriage door that you saw in 1940. Looking at that etching there on the second page, Brooklyn Eagle postcard Series 66, the carriage door are not there at that time. So that's, if we want to look at that, the carriage door are not there, but because our historic document for LPC is the 1940 photos from the tax block. So the tax block report the wood carriage door that probably were done in the 30s. Who knows, in the 20s, it doesn't matter. But at the time, 1940 is our oldest image. This is something could be presented to LPC, and I don't know if they will consider this the Eagle postcard that is shown here, but definitely where we are asked to insert that door wasn't there in that drawings that you see. This
It's an
for the
egress
record.
door, isn't it?
It's a, yeah.
Yeah, but for the record, if we want to be corrected, this is what it is. I'm just analyzing a drawings. I'm looking at the document.
Just, we absolutely could not restore that bay back to its original condition because the original condition was all windows. We need an egress door out of the fire stair for the building, period.
Okay.
No, that I understood. I was wondering if there was a way, together with the LPC, to elaborate something could be more harmonious. As I said, you know, the carriage door, there is a vocabulary, there is a language that had introduced somehow, and I didn't make any comment that I was against that, despite, you know, I was aware that originally they weren't that. That's, if we want to include in a motion committee's member, that's a consideration, you know, something to explore as a possibility. Can we harmonize them more?
Right. I feel like it's a decent intervention, considering the you know, the egress requirements. And if I just looked at the diagram again, and I don't know. I feel like it's a better intervention than the carriage door. So, and people are concerned about the carriage door.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Should we vote, and then if there will be not enough votes, we can make another motion, if that's what the committee wants.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the project as presented. One second. Deltic?
Yes.
Wait, I'm sorry, point of order, but with the concern about the color details.
No, it's just the motion was to approve. If the Simon wants to include the issue with the decal, then we can include it. Simon? Simon? Do you want to include the committee's concern in your motion to approve with concern regarding the coloring of the decal?
I mean, I see most committee members and just saw both renderings, and they realize that it really will make a difference. That I hear from the most members. So I don't think.
Simon, only 2 members spoke, so that's
okay. So I want to hear. I didn't hear from any other members. You know, if other members feel the same, you know, put it in the motion. You know, I gladly put it in, but it all depends on the committee.
Maybe we should have all the concern we brought out. Maybe they should be included. I mean, at the end of the story, LPC is going to make the.
Okay, let's, Santi, we have a motion on the table and somebody mentioned about the color. So let's stick to
I
one
know,
item
but if you
issue
mentioned
first.
about the color, we mentioned what Steve Chesler said about the carriage door. We mentioned what I said about
Yeah, but
the other portion.
Santa, point of order. I think at this time, Simon made a motion, and it's up to him to amend that motion, include something. If he wants to include it, then we will include it. Otherwise, we have a motion that was second, and we have to vote on it. If the motion,
Let me clearly. What will be the vote? What will be the vote? The wording about the coloring? How would the motion? How would we?
Trina, help me with the motion.
It would be a motion to approve with concern about the multiple color decals in the window and a request that maybe it could be one color.
I'm okay with that. To put it into the motion. If the committee feels that we should put it in, I'm okay with that.
You're not okay with the other things, Simon?
It's too vague. I mean, this issue I think is more. I think it's more.
The other are too vague. Why are too vague?
Okay.
The other one really
Mr. Vega,
things about.
are you willing to second amended motion?
Wait, before we even add this thing, it seems to me that some of us who were concerned about the colors of the stick-ons, just when we realized they were all very, very pastel, I think most of us said
It's okay.
We were okay with it. Does anyone really need to have that as a concern now that we see that it's just very pastel?
I do. I still have a problem with adding color.
I don't.
I do too.
Period.
Okay, so two people have, but
I mean, is it possible to say that, because my concern is really just how bright they are, actually.
Yeah.
So, I would be fine with just saying that we have some concern over that. I don't know how that actually plays out, but just so, because to me, it's like how noticeable it is important.
all right, Simon, you're willing to put that in, that there's concern about the colors and of the decals?
Right.
Okay, it's not a condition, it's just a concern, and landmarks can investigate.
Okay,
Right.
William, you seconded?
Yes, I'm still seconding. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, Deltique?
Yes.
Viera? She's not here. Trina McReever?
Yes.
Steve Chesler?
Yes.
Aaron Drinkwater?
Yes.
Moshe Indig? Yes. Kaminsky, yes. Kantin?
Yes.
Robert Keldborn?
Yes.
That's
Did I-
Paul.
did I-
Paul.
Paul, I'm
Campbell.
sorry. I'm sorry.
It's Paul, not Robert.
Okay, I'm sorry.
For the record.
For the record, that's good. Mayers? Michelli?
No.
Robbie Needleman? Neves? Sofer? Vega?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Weiser?
Yes.
Andrews? Berger?
Yes.
Kavochka?
Yes.
Naplatarski? Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. We have 10 yes and 1 no. The motion carries. Okay, that's it for me.
Katie Napastarski just texted me that she voted yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's going to be 11.
She has poor reception.
Okay. 11 yes and 1 no. Okay, that's it for this project, Del.
Okay, thank you. So the last thing we were going to do is just a discussion of the rules regarding the IBIA special permits. And I don't plan to take much time on this. We received a printout from Ms. Chang. I think Joanna, please correct me if this is wrong, but I think it came to us on March 23rd.
Yes.
So it's a very good, it's a very nice printout. She sent us an attachment, and then she gives links to click on, and you can get the information both about the 12 Franklin Street and the renewal that's going to be coming up at our next committee meeting. And in this printout, you also get the general requirements, the general conditions and the findings that you need for these special permits, which is what I really wanted to do, because not only do we have 12 Franklin coming back to get an extension, to get a 3-year renewal, but we may have other applications coming to us just from the ground up. So I won't take up much of your time, but basically they talk about the overall conditions. Yes, they talk about the overall conditions, the amount of required industrial use versus retail and office space, and the height, the setback, the requirements for the sidewalk and public access, the ground floor design, in particular that goes into the kind of wall that you can have, and the transparency, the window, and how big the windows must have to be, public plaza requirements, signage requirements, and then it goes into the findings, and those I think are particularly important and interesting. And I'll just read those. That this will promote a beneficial mix of required industrial and incentive uses, incentive office, retail. That it will result in a superior site planning, harmonious urban design relationships, and a safe and enjoyable streetscape. That the third one would be that it will result in a building that has a better design relationship with surrounding streets and adjacent open areas. Fourth is that it'll result in a development or an enlargement that will not have an adverse effect on the surrounding neighborhood. And that the plaza requirements that will result in a public plaza of equivalent or greater value as a public amenity. Now, remember that when 12 Franklin comes back to us, the requirement that they have to show us is that what they are proposing to continue to do is essentially the same project that we've already approved. And let's remember that 12 Franklin has been approved based on all of these conditions and requirements. And what we will be looking at with 12 Franklin is it essentially the same? Is there any significant change? And that will be coming before us in our May committee. So I wanted to make sure that Lucia sent this to us well before May, so that by the time we get to look at 12 Franklin, we'll have an overall sense of what it was that was required, that we approved, and that is part of this too. It discusses how 12 Franklin was in conformity with all of these conditions and requirements and the findings. So so I do recommend that you look at this, that you check it out and just familiarize yourself. Definitely for the 12 Franklin, and then you'll have the basics for any future applications that we make. I'll also mention that it looks like we have a pretty full agenda on May 1st. We have two presentations. The one that was supposed to be for tonight that had to be put over. I did tell them that they were going to have to wait, that we were going to put the applications that needed to be voted on, that we were going to put them first. And I recommended they consider whether, they really wanted to be on our May 1st agenda for the presentations, because they would have to stick around. And they assured me that they would be drinking plenty of coffee and they were willing to wait. So we have several other applications that I think are coming. I don't know how many, but I do recommend that for May 1st that we try to have make our concerns and our representations as non-repetitious as possible. On the other hand, it's my sense that we do want to end our committee meetings by 9 o'clock, 9:30, but there are times when we're going to have to be ready to go over, because it just so happens that these are things that are on the clock. And I know I don't have to explain that to you all. I just sort of wanted to make that statement, maybe more for the fact that people will have to, or will hopefully understand, if the committee goes over, it's because we care and we are, doing our best to make things go as quickly as possible, but also to make sure that we're not just pushing something through just because it's time for a cup of bedtime tea or whatever. So then one more thing I did want to mention to all of you is that it came up about abstentions. Is an abstention, what's the effect of an abstention? And the way I've always seen it, and we double checked with our legal people, an abstention, and I think it's important for people to understand this, because I think often people just abstain because they say, well, I don't know, I just don't want to, I don't know, I just can't make up my mind. But you do need to know that if an abstention stops the yes vote from getting a majority, an abstention can actually wind up being a no vote. It can stand in the way of the passing of a motion. I'm not saying people shouldn't abstain. I just think people need to have an understanding of the fact that an abstention does have, or can have, a very significant effect on whether a motion passes. So that's about it.
Now, can I ask a question about the ABIA? Oh, sorry, Steve, do you?
IBIA, sure.
Yeah. Do we voted on them and we approved, or with our conditions, a number of them, and then they didn't get built, and the conditions have changed in some ways in the wake of the pandemic. And are we locked in with the conditions that we gave before, or can we rethink some of this? And would it be helpful to have Karen and Evergreen guide us with what actually makes sense? And is there any way we could add geothermal?
Is there any way we can what?
Add a condition for geothermal. These buildings aren't built, and could we look at that corridor as potentially an area where there can be innovative non-fossil fuel energy? Or at least we could ask for it.
My feeling is always that we can ask for what we want. And I think that this is a very important and interesting, issue that you bring up, because we have been burned by some of these projects and these special permits. As I understand it, the regulation is, the rule is that they have a right to, that the applicant has a right to get a 3-year extension, two 3-year extensions actually, if on the ground that the application is essentially the same. There are no essential changes. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't look as something like geothermal and say, you know, we would, and we can talk to them and ask if they would be, if it's applicable here and what they would think about it. Also, if the area changed and there's something that we see that in good faith really makes this project different, significantly different, I suppose we can always put that in, and we can always bring that up, and we can always, if it's something that we feel that strongly about, we can address it. But the as I understand it, they can ask for the extension, provided that they have not materially changed the project that we approved and that has been approved. I don't know if, I mean, and to have Karen Nieves and Evergreen communicate with us on this and any insight they have, that's great, that's fine. So I would certainly, you know, say, sure. I don't know if they want to come. I mean, Karen is, I don't know if Karen is asked to be reappointed to the board, but Karen is always welcome at this.
Well, I know that Evergreen were big supporters of these projects. I mean, that was one
Yeah.
of the things that really tipped the balance for the committee and for the board.
Yeah, yeah. Well, are you, maybe you're meaning that maybe we should ask Evergreen and Karen to come to a meeting and discuss with us whether they actually are still in such great support in general. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, that makes sense. I wouldn't suggest it for May. I would say June.
But are the reappointments coming up in May? Do we need to hear from them? Maybe we could hear independently from them, or we could ask them.
Sure, if they want to give, sure, we could ask if they have any new insight on their support of these IBIA special permits. Joanna, is it possible for you to send them a note asking if they could update on us on that? Joanna?
Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Is it possible for you to send a note to Karen Nieves and Evergreen and ask them if they could update us on their overall generalized support of the IBIA special permits?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. Thank you, Trina. You know we're all going to miss you, right? All right, well,
and I'm going to miss you guys.
Then I have a question because my line I was cut off. So I know you start talking about abstention, and then when I reconnected, I don't know. Did we got an answer about the abstention? Because I know there was some things. It goes into the yes, goes into the no.
Yes. Yes. It, as some of us understood it, that particular motion did not pass. Now, for a motion to pass, the motion, you have to have a majority of people who are present and able to vote, voting yes. So if in that respect, if you have enough abstentions to make it so that you don't have a majority of those present and who can vote, you don't have a majority yes votes because you have some abstentions, because those abstentions count in terms of who's there, how many are there, and how you're going to get your majority. Then those abstentions actually function as a negative, basically. They function to defeat passage of that motion.
And so in regard to that, I mean, we had 3 motions, right? So none of the 3 motions at the last board meeting passed, right?
I don't remember now. I really, I know there was that one motion I'm only aware of our.
Yeah, the final motion
concern about
passed.
one motion. I'm only
because
At the
I
full
thought
board meeting, the
Joanna,
final motion passed.
yeah.
Oh,
at the
really? I
full
thought
board
Joanna
meeting.
said that.
The final motion did pass.
Yeah, I was
Oh.
talking about the committee, the motion at the
Oh, I
committee.
see. Oh, at the committee. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about the full board. I was just
Oh,
talking
I
about
see.
the motion at the committee. Anyway, so I think it's
Okay,
just,
thank
again,
you.
I just think it's, that doesn't, I'm not in any way implying that people should or should not abstain on motions. I just think that, it should be clear what the consequences are of abstaining, or what the consequence can be. And that's all.
Also, there is to say sometime another formula is the no vote. I mean, I know it can be, but you know, that's why we are here. We vote yes, we vote no, and abstention definitely is one of the fair formula. But being there, but just not responding and putting a no vote, so you didn't say anything, I don't think is fair either. You know, we had different idea. We put it there, and you know, and we fight sometime for things, but I don't think not giving a vote at all is courageous enough either. You know what I mean?
Well, I differ with that. And sometimes we get information. You know, I got last time information at 5 o'clock. It was too late for me to read the material, so I cannot come up with a educated opinion. So it all depends, like the Fuller said, when these committee reports are done, for us to get it early enough so we can digest it. You know, that's my only
But
issue.
but don't you think, William, that would be a very good case to abstain? You know
Yep.
what I mean?
What if somebody has to recuse themselves for a conflict of interest?
Yeah,
Or recusing, yes, yes.
yeah, recusal, as I understand it, and I can look further into this, recusal is different. I don't believe a recusal counts against it. That's how I learned it. But yeah, that's an important question. A recusal is different. It's a different animal, so to speak.
I see Corey and Steve have their
Yeah,
hands up.
Corey, you had something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the discussion we had at the last meeting around the land use conditions. I followed up with Lincoln's office, and we have gotten 13.21% of the affordable housing that we were promised. That was one of the questions that the committee had wanted to know. And we were supposed to get 20%, and we got, I guess, 13.21 out of 2,100 units.
Yeah, that's not good.
So just
That's, if I understand, we were promised 33% in the 2005 rezoning.
I don't know. I had looked at a New York Times article just before this meeting that said that it was at 20, but
Well, I
in
was looking
either
at the points
case,
of agreement from the 2005 rezoning.
okay. Well, in any event, the number that we have is 13.21, so that we're all aware of that. Arvind, who I spoke with, wasn't sure in terms of MIH, because that was the other question we were trying to ask. He thought, but he basically said we would need to have, I guess you can get a fellow for the community board who could go through the data. And we can make a request for that if we want to, but essentially he thinks we probably are in the most need of the lowest bar, sort of like below 60% actually, AMI, and then at a higher kind of around 100, but he wasn't really sure. But just to kind of note that it would take some time, but we could potentially get someone to do that for us. And then I also asked him, because we were talking about like sort of how much affordable housing we should ask for, because I think really when you talk about 13.21% and then, look at other community boards, which I did, by the way, contact CB6 and CB8. And I could go sort of longer form into what their concerns were, but a lot of what they were more interested in was manufacturing, which obviously we're interested in too, but I think that our main focus is affordable housing because, 13.21% and 2,100 new units is really lopsided. So I think that explains, our focus. But just to say there, I brought up the idea of 35% and then 50%. And basically what he said was that, 50% is definitely the goal, it's like but more of a kind of an aspirational number, and 35% is more, I think, what we may be able to get, but that it could be a good strategy to set our goal at 50%. And then when a developer, and this would be on a manufacturing to residential rezoning or a city-owned property, so not, say like a place on McCarran that just wants to go up 2 stories. So it depends on the leverage that we have. But essentially, he said that if we started at 50% and then they're unable to do it, we would then have the ability to discuss all of the other concerns that we have, which would be transportation, parks, environment. And we could then outline what is important to our district and say, okay, we would consider something less than that, but on considering if you would do these other things for us. So it basically is starting the bar high, so that way we have room to negotiate our other principles. So, I don't want to take too much of the committee's time on this, but I wasn't sure sort of where this conversation, what was sort of the next step there, and wanted to just follow up on the questions that the committee had.
It seems to me that we've really been doing something very similar to this. We didn't ask 50%, but what we have been doing is we have been asking for more than what was required. And then we've been saying to the developers, okay, well, we've been doing just that. Okay, well, then give us money towards the park, give us something towards the transportation or whatever it is. And so it just seems to me that this falls in line with the direction we've been going in. I see Lucia Marquez Reagan is here. Hello. Welcome, Lucia. Thank you. You've been very helpful.
Okay, add something here.
Yes, just let me ask if this, Lucia, did you want to say anything to the committee? I didn't realize you were here.
No, I was just listening in. I thought that I wasn't sure what the agenda for 12 Franklin was going to be, so I just wanted to listen in. But I also want to say that we do have a housing. We have our housing department division at DCP that we could also run numbers in terms of affordable housing and housing units as well. But whatever is useful for the committee to have at their hands for these presentations, I'm more than happy to help out.
That would be great. If you do you have anyone who could you have someone come to us or give us information about what your sense is of what AMIs we really need the most and what we've achieved so far for affordability?
I can check in with our housing division and see what kind of information and in what format is going to be the best way to present it. And I think a date kind of that we'd like to see it would be helpful for us as well.
Well, as I said, our May committee is pretty packed. I would, in good conscience, I could not ask you to come to that or to send anyone to it. But then June would be, if you could have something for us in our June committee meeting.
I'll inquire, and June, it's the first week, correct, of June for.
Joanna, do you know offhand the June meeting? It's usually the first Monday of the month, but I don't want to say that and then find out that there are some holidays.
Let me check. I don't have the calendar with me right now, but I could get back to you.
We can, sounds good. We can
get it to you. Yes, thank you. Anyway,
you want to fine tune the questions too that we're asking?
Sure. So we're asking what the AMI numbers are that we most need. Arvin said he thought very low, like below 60, and then higher, around 100%. How much affordability should we ask for? We've started to ask for 35. and
Is it-
toying with
is
asking for
Lucia-
50.
Lucia with city planning? Are you with city planning? Is she with city planning
I
or
am,
with the city
yes,
council
yes.
or
Yes.
who?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry for not introducing myself. Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
Department of City Planning.
Sorry, I thought everyone knew Lucia.
I think we
Yeah.
wanted to know what AMIs we currently have so we could know where the voids were.
Okay,
Yes.
that's a good point. Yes, and what AMIs we have. Which would lead to perhaps city planning's concept of what are the AMIs that we most need, that we would benefit most from.
I think we need to determine that.
Well, I think it would be, we can determine that, but wouldn't it be nice to know what city planning, what their thoughts are? Arvind was, able to share his thoughts on what we need. That doesn't mean we agree. But
Yeah,
I also think it
I
might
feel
be
like
good. Go ahead. Yeah?
I feel like their plan is to build as many market rate units as possible, as high as they can go. And, I feel like, I think we need to impose upon them what our district needs and our community needs.
Well, I agree, but I don't think
yeah.
it ever hurts to ask the agencies what they think, what they see, what they are using as their criteria. But absolutely, I agree with you. It's ultimately up to us, including possibly asking for fellows to come and help us get the information.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd just like to respond to what Corey put out there. And I'm very glad, Corey, you brought this up. Yeah, I wonder if it'd be helpful if the committee members could see the points of agreement from the 2005 rezoning. Addresses many different areas, including affordable housing and open space and height and bulk of buildings. You'll see that they committed to 33% of affordable housing units built, just in the rezoned area. But I think we, could apply it to the entire district. And if we're at 13%, that's really pathetic.
It is pathetic.
And I think, if they're city-owned properties, we should ask for a lot more than 50%. We should ask for 100. Because like at Hunters Point South, those buildings are in city-owned property and they're between 60 and 70% affordable housing units over there. So I think I suggest we be a lot more aggressive, in that regard. And I feel like, I think, Rivering was a good case in terms of we asked for 50% affordable housing, and supposedly they're trying to, they added 10% more than the 25 offsite, but I heard that that's all in limbo right now. But it was on the table at one point. But to make up that gap, we need the city, the mayor and the city council to, well, not really city council, but they really need to deliver, and just offering building, rezonings that are between 75 and 100% market rate is just, it's offensive, that they keep offering those. So that's I think the 20% number is the incentivized number. Like if in the rezoned area, if developer adds, I think 20% of their units or floor area allocated to units, then they get a density bonus. I think of like a third higher or something like that, but they're not required to do that. So MIH is required. So that's my 2 cents. I just and just quickly back to 12 Franklin, as you mentioned, they can get 2 more renewals, and if there's no substantial construction, then it expires.
That's what I understand. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
One thing, if I can just quickly dovetail on what Steve said, and where I think it's important in the conditions about, 50% or whatever we decide, is that, with River Ring, when the developer is looking at the lot, they pay a certain amount of money for it based on the expectation of what they're able to build. So the idea of trying to get ahead of it with a higher, amount is that then, instead of them spending, I used to know this off the top of my head, but it was like 175 million, then it probably would have traded for, say, 140 million, and then we could have gotten more affordable housing out of it. So I think that sort of getting in front of that with our expectations on, city-owned sites or the sites that we really have more leverage is really important before the developer even buys it.
Sure, this way the speculation price is lower.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's an example of a city-owned site?
I think that Quay actually is, not that I want a building there, but
That's the MTA site.
yeah. I mean, and that I think we probably want to handle differently, which I don't want to, divert from the main point here, but, ultimately that is, yeah, an example.
It's not a city-owned site. It's an MTA-owned site.
So is that state then? Because MTA is state?
Well, it's an state agency owned, whatever, whatever that means. But yeah, it's a municipally owned, owned by a municipality or a government agency.
It's state. The governor says what happens there.
Got
Yeah.
it. But would we
That
still,
would be, yeah, just to find out what city-owned sites are available in our district. That would be interesting, also.
Yeah.
May I speak now?
Sure.
Thank you. I'm just some household thing, with us losing Trina, which all of us are heartbroken right now. But I'm concerned about us being able to make quorum because there are some committee members Delta, you'll know who they are, but I don't mention names. But there's some committee members I don't recall seeing in many, many, many months, and us having them add as a committee, and they don't show up. That makes it hard for us to hit a quorum. So I don't want to have someone removed, but if they don't show up, it puts us at jeopardy in not having quorum with the numbers. That's my concern.
Yes, I reached out to someone today. I don't want to mention any names, but yes, we have to. I'll be sending out some letters or a few letters to people who have not attended consistently in a very long time.
Thank you.
Corey, you go have your baby. You don't have to.
Yes, Corey, you have your baby, and you're doing yeoman service. I think I can speak for the committee.
Well, thank you guys. I will still try and attend. I dropped other committees actually, so I could make sure to be able to attend 2 meetings a month, but anyway.
The baby comes first.
Thank you. Yes, I will bring him to the meeting. I'll just, show him on screen for a moment there.
You could bring him to the meetings.
Why not? Anyway, thank you.
I also request something general for the future because I never receive. Luckily Joanna sent it to me at 6 p.m. It's very important, not just for me, but for all the committee members, especially the one I'm more distracted about certain topics. That is landmark, land use, the library. And I saw the way I received the PDF with the presentation, 15, 20 days before. Can we make sure that we have all the documents? If we don't receive it, because they don't send it to us, well, of course, the only chance we have is waiting for the presentation at the moment. But sometime with all the detail, if we want to do a proper job, personally, I need to analyze the drawings in time because I'm able to do the proper comments. Can we make sure that the presentation send forward to all the committee member? Hopefully,
Joanna, I'm under the impression that
yes, whatever comes in is sent out.
Yeah.
Today there was an update with the library. I was not in today. I was off today. I sent it as soon as I saw it when I checked the email. As soon as I saw it, it was sent out to everybody. But as soon as something comes into the community board that is land use, I do send it to the committee.
But I saw, Joanna, you sent something. Wasn't originally sent on March 20 about was the landmark. Also, the library, was he sent it days before? Is he sent it to the chair? That's what I didn't understand. Or he sent to the office?
No,
you
when
sent-
item comes in and there's a request to be on our public hearing, that is sent first to the executive board to be considered to be put on the list. And there was back and forth about them being put on the list because they had came to us a few times and they were put on our community board meeting and then they cancel.
Okay, whatever is the process, it wasn't a criticism. I know every time I ask Trina, then Trina send it to me, and I asked to you today, you send it. But as a general things, at a certain point, once the executive board insert that into the agenda, and we know they are coming, and it's a week ahead, it's 5 days ahead, can we make sure, I'm asking the chair of the land use to Dale, can we make sure that once it's finalized, that they're going to come to us if we have the presentation the moment they arrive, all the committee member have it, this presentation.
Sure. I thought that was, if, I would imagine, well, that definitely is something that I would prefer. Is that any kind of a problem, Joanna?
No, it's not. We just,
No.
today we received 2 last minute
I know.
from the library and also
Right.
from North 11.
Sure, so for the future, yes, Sante.
Yeah, and the more we can push them to have it in time, it may
Yeah.
be useful, than do last minute, and that's all.
Yeah.
But thank you again.
Sure, absolutely. And Steve, I think you wanted to mention something about these, the batteries and the installation.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, 315 Berry Street, the battery storage system, they, applied for a special permit to install that on a residential building where zoning doesn't allow it. It's still ongoing. I attended a hearing that addressed that matter back last Tuesday. And I read testimony that was based on the responses from the land use committee and the multiple responses from the environmental committee. And so there's been the Adams administration appointed a new chair of the Board of Standards and Appeals, basically promoted the vice chair to chair, and the previous chair is no longer on the board. And the previous chair was much more she was much more in tune to the safety issues, the safety concerns. The current chair, Shampa Chandra, they're more thinking about zoning. How does this meet the qualifications? So to basically qualify for the special permit, only serving the local vicinity, basically receiving a benefit from this installation, supporting the power grid. As far as safety and building integrity issues, because that was an issue, whether this old building with crumbling facade, which still has not been remedied. The owner has 16 violations with DOB and Environmental Control Board, totaling almost $150,000. And but the board basically said, we're deferring these issues to other agencies. The building integrity and repairs to DOB, FDNY will sign off on the safety and fire issues, and DEP about noise. And basically saying that the permit is conditional on those agencies signing off with those concerns. And then another interesting element to this thing is the tenants hired an attorney, and they were present at the meeting, and they requested an adjournment. The board basically rejected the adjournment. They're allowing the attorney to respond to the BSA's assertion that this is going to qualify for the special permit. They have 3 weeks to respond, and then the applicant's attorneys, Sheldon LaBelle has 3 weeks to respond to them. So it's going to go on for at least like another 6 weeks, maybe longer, before the board makes a decision. The lawyer basically was asserting that since this is essentially a rent controlled building, it's a loft building, that preventing access to the roof or full access to the roof is a violation of that. And they also picked up on the fire safety issues. Remember that the FDNY came to the board and said that they don't have experience extinguishing fires of this type at this scale. And so that's what I read in the testimony, and he picked up on that. So I'm not sure what they're going to do with that, but so that's kind of where things are at. And just preview coming attractions with the mayor's City of Yes proposal, and it's 3 sections. One of them is City of Neutrality, carbon neutrality, and there's 17 text amendments part of that. And one of them is related to these battery storage systems. There isn't actually language that specifies, this specific type of mechanism. It just says electric substations. And so they want the language to specifically say that, but it'll still, under a certain amount of square footage on the roof, it will still require a special permit to the BSA. So that's the story with that. So, but it's unless this attorney can really turn things around through the legal means, it's looking like it's being set up to be approved. So,
Depressing.
just one more thing is just what we found out is in a commercial district where there's residential being built over the commercial space, these BSSs are allowed as of right. So it was interesting to know. So anyway, that's that.
What's allowed as of right, Steve?
To build these battery storage systems
Wow.
on a roof. Yep.
Wow. Well, that's depressing. Scary, actually. Well, thank you. Thank you for the update anyway. All right. If anyone does, unless someone has something they want to add, it's getting late, and hope everyone who's celebrating a holiday this week and next week, I hope you all have good holidays. And if you're not celebrating a holiday, I still hope you have a really great week and nice weather. And happiness.
Thank you, Del. The same to you.
Yes, happy holidays, and just a quick shout out to William Vega, the New Yorker of the Week.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, William.
Congratulations.
See, and we think that it's all a thankless job, but there you go.
It is a
It
thankless
was a great
job.
piece.
And congratulations
won.
anyway.
New York won. Check it out.
Well, we all thank you, Trina. We thank you, Del, everyone.
I thank everybody here. We all make a difference in our little way. So God bless you all.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Happy
Good night.
holidays.
Take care, everybody.